Welcome to the webinar series, Virtual Education, Transforming Obstacles into Opportunities. Today's session is High Leverage Practices to Support the Needs of Diverse Learners in the Virtual Classroom. I'm Kia Johnson, Project Coach with Insight Education Group.
And I'm Kim Day, also a Project Coach with Insight Education Group. We're glad you're here to join us today.
For our time together today, we ask that everyone participates actively, that you remain open to new ideas, and that you trust the process. The session materials that you need include the accompanying participant guide, which you can access by going to the camera setting on your phone and scanning the QR code.
You'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a page icon with the number 2. The page icons in the bottom right-hand corner of some of our slides align with a particular page in the participant guide. We'll give you a few moments to download the materials. In our session today, we'll identify high leverage practices to support diverse learners in the virtual classroom, and we'll build capacity around observing virtual instruction and coaching to support the needs of diverse learners. We acknowledge that people come to the table with different levels of expertise and different experiences, and we empathize that this situation is unique and will be a challenging learning experience for all. The following information provides a roadmap for our time together today. Take a moment to review the structure of the session. We first want to think about the connections and through lines that exist and how we can then intentionally build equitable experiences for all learners by ensuring that we are providing the supports needed by attending to the social and emotional needs of our students.
Thank you, Kim. So before we jump in today, we'd like to take a moment to ensure that we are on the same page with respect to terminology. Diverse learners are students who bring a broad array of learning styles, varying academic histories and needs, and may also have cultural and linguistic differences. Educational equity means that every student has access to the opportunities, resources, and educational rigor that they need throughout their educational career to maximize academics. In this session, we'll be investigating the high leverage practices that ensure educational equity for all learners and maximize outcomes for diverse learners.
Just a reminder that this is a short webinar, but yet action-oriented. Opportunities will be offered to stop, jot, and capture thinking and ideas. Our goal is to provide you with the space and time to begin creating actionable plans. It will be necessary, however, to complete the development of those plans outside of our time together.
It is also important to remember that equity considerations are essential. As we shift to remote learning, it is critical to consider how we maintain equitable learning experiences for all learners. We recognize the need for leaders to approach equity with urgency so that all children can realize the promise of public education. But more importantly, it is and must continue to be evident in our work.
Absolutely, Kia. During the session, we will be intentional in making connections to high leverage instructional practices and the national standards for quality online teaching. It's important to recognize that the areas of focus and strategies presented align to these teaching standards.
And finally, it's critical to remember that flexibility is crucial. In the present context, there are many variables and unknowns. The ability to adapt as needed will be critical. In that same vein, individualized approaches are also key. As we seek to provide personalized learning experiences for all students, it will be critical to be nimble and responsive to varying needs as they arise.
So let's begin by taking a moment to examine this quote. In this quote, John Hattie reminds us that children come to the table with varying backgrounds, skills, and needs, and the impact of their home environments will only be exacerbated during school closures. While support measures and interventions will look different in the current context, it's critical to consider how to build in both the key academic and social emotional supports to maximize outcomes for our students.
And so we're going to start off today by talking about building equity and making a connection to the concept of instructional design and practice, which states that the teacher understands the active nature of student learning and acquires information about levels of development for individual students. The teacher also systematically acquires knowledge from several sources about individual students' varied approaches to learning, knowledge and skills, special needs, and interests and cultural heritages. This is so important because the equity problems that plague K through 12 education under normal conditions have only been worsened by the shift to online learning during school closures, making it even more urgent to consider how we build and sustain equity in the virtual classroom.
So let's begin by examining building equity in our virtual school communities. In this virtual environment, it's critical to be intentional about building and maintaining equity in the virtual classroom. That includes ensuring that existing inequities are considered as we fulfill our responsibility to reach all learners. It will be important to meet each child where they are and to provide the appropriate scaffolds to ensure all students are learning at high levels.
We would like to introduce you to two tools that have been designed to support your efforts that each child receives what is needed to be successful.
The first tool we're going to examine is the Restarting School Guide. An equity review is an effective way to assess inequities and plan for how to address them. It's important to remember that equity should be embedded in every aspect of our school's community. One tool to help unpack your building or district level needs is Insight's Restart Guide, a free personalized school readiness implementation plan which assesses needs within 7 key areas. Those include leadership, assessment, curriculum, teaching and learning, whole child support, professional development with a focus on equity throughout. You can access this guide by using the camera function on your phone and scanning the QR code.
And so, after completing a brief questionnaire, leaders will receive individualized readiness recommendations and considerations, including specific step by step implementation plans. Additionally, you will gain access to relevant resources aligned to common challenges while ensuring that equity remains at the center of all key decisions. Regardless of what tools you use to assess your district or school level needs and readiness to learn, the most important aspect will be the action steps taken to ensure that teachers have the tools and supports needed to provide every student with what they need to succeed.
And once again, you can access our Restart Guide by using your camera phone and scanning the QR code at the bottom of the slide.
And some sample plans are available on page 4 of the participant guide. An additional tool to help unpack your building or district level needs is the equity rubric, attending to needs of the most vulnerable populations. This tool is designed for districts and schools to assess the quality of their reopening plans by focusing on the most vulnerable populations the organization serves.
The rubric itself is derived from a variety of resources and research provided by the Education Trust, the Aspen Institute, Chiefs for Change, Digital Promise, and other organizations deeply engaged in equitable school reopening for all students.
The rubric is not designed to answer every question and assess every aspect of an organization's reopening plan, but it is designed to help analyze how reopening plans attend to equity for their most vulnerable populations. It is also not designed to add another layer of complexity to the planning process. However, it is intended to help schools and districts easily surface gaps in their plans in relation to serving the most vulnerable populations.
You'll find a copy of the equity rubric on page 5 of your participant guide, also located in the folder of resources for this particular webinar. We'll give you just a moment to skim and scan the equity rubric. So let's take a moment now to pause and plan. As you think about the resources we've just shared with you, Think about how you and your staff are currently planning and preparing to build and maintain equity in the virtual context. Consider the following. What's your current reality? What's been working? What challenges have your team experienced? And then consider what opportunities exist to strengthen equity and enhance diverse student learning in your context. Take a moment to jot down your ideas on page 7 in the participant guide. Be sure to include how you will hold yourself accountable. We're going to pause now for a couple of moments to allow you to start your thought process and jot it down.
As you begin working on your plans, we'd like to share a few of the considerations, look forwards, or action steps that you may have started to outline in your own plans. As you think about how you'll prioritize equity and enhance diverse student learning, remember to conduct some type of equity review to reveal and acknowledge the existing inequities in your school community. It's also important to consider creating a work group that can help to develop an implementation plan to specifically target and mitigate the impact of those existing inequities. Additionally, as you think about how to ensure equitable and meaningful learning experiences for all learners, remember to set clear and consistent expectations for teachers regarding the planning and preparation of their online lessons. And it will also be key to identify who will be responsible for monitoring and providing the ongoing and observation and feedback that will be needed to continue developing those teachers in the areas of equity.